All right. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's seminar. So today's e-learning session is Brain Health, inviting education coordinator from Alzheimer Society owner. So this e-learning session is co-provided by Momiji Healthcare Society and Japanese Social Services, joined by Ihon Center. So before we begin, I have a few housekeeping notes. So this session is recorded. The Q&A and your face and voice will not be recorded. So please refrain from recording or taking photo of this session. And you are muted during the presentation, so please stay muted until the Q&A time comes. And please keep your notes for any comments or any questions during the presentation. At the Q&A session, please raise your hand for your comments or questions, and you can unmute yourself when your name is called. And the question received via chat will be taken at the Q&A time. So during the presentation, you can just type your comment or question in the chat, and we will pick up from there. And it is up to you to have your video on. However, it's will be very appreciated if you could turn on the video. It will be more wonderful for guest speakers to interact with you. And for those turn off the video, host will indicate when you can unmute yourself and ask some questions.
And I just have to jump in today. There are going to be some interactive quiz during the presentation, and it's going to be what we call it poll. It's going to be a pop-up coming up. So for you to click that answer that you think is the best. So you can ignore that, but if you want to join, please try to click the one that you think is right for each question. We have 5 of them today.
All right, and we would like to introduce hosting organization of today's seminar. So first, Chie-san from Momiji Healthcare Society, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Chie. Thank you for coming today as well. And Momiji Healthcare Society is a non-profit organization, and we're supportive housing for seniors located in Scarborough. We're serving seniors and their caregivers in English and Japanese. We have a virtual and in-person programs for seniors and the caregivers in community and inside the Momiji as well. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chie-san. And next up is Japanese Social Services. So my name is Rumiko from Japanese Social Services. Japanese Social Services is a non-profit agency that provides counseling and programs in both English and Japanese. So we are located in the 2nd floor of Japanese Canadian Culture Center, but currently providing service remotely. So you can reach us by phone or email. And every month we are hosting e-learning seminar on 2nd and 4th Wednesday and posting details on our website. So we also have online social programs such as class club, singing club, and online yoga for seniors. So if anyone interested, please check our website, jss.ca, for more information. Thank you. And next up, Angela from Ihon Center, please go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yes, okay. Thanks, Rumiko. My name is Angela. I'm the social worker from Ihon Center for Geriatric Care Community Professional Services. Ihon is one of the largest nonprofit senior care organization in Canada. We offer high quality, culturally appropriate services to Chinese and seniors from other Asian backgrounds. We do have a designated floor in one of our centers for seniors of Japanese origin. So we do have a wide range of community support services as well. And also we have a hospice residence. So if you would like to know more about our agency and also our services, you could follow the link on the page and call the number on the screen. You're welcome to, give us a call or anytime. Thanks.
Thank you, Angela. Right, so now let me introduce our guest speaker, Nicole from Alzheimer's Society Toronto. So Nicole, please take away.
Hi, my name is Nicole. I am from Alzheimer's Society Toronto. I am one of the public education coordinators. My background is in social service worker with a specialization in gerontology. I've been working with families, with clients, so people who are living with dementia, Alzheimer's disease and related dementia for the past 10 years and 5 years in this role. So I'm really excited to be here to talk to you about brain health and how we can try to prevent and do things that can kind of, take us away from having Alzheimer's disease and related dementia. So thank you for having me. And I guess I will just share my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, can everyone see everything?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So let's begin. Let me just get myself all prepared.
So just to let everyone know that you will receive the copy of the slides, so you don't have to manually take the note.
Yeah, and you don't need to take notes. You can just enjoy. So today we're going to talk about Alzheimer's disease and related dementia. We're going to go over some risk factors of dementia, learn or maybe just validate some of the things that you already do, some good habits that you have already that may be already reducing your risk of developing dementia. And at the end, we'll go over a little bit of an interactive activity if you would like to participate. And it'll be fun, it'll be good. And then at the end, we'll review some of the services that we can provide. So what is dementia? Dementia is a set of symptoms, and Alzheimer's disease is a form of dementia. So dementia is a syndrome, or what we describe as a set of symptoms that can include memory loss, poor judgment, a decline in cognitive thinking abilities. It can also impact a person's personality and affect their communication and behaviors. So there are actually over 100 different forms and or types of dementia, and Alzheimer's disease is just one of them. And regardless of the dementia, Alzheimer's disease specifically is progressive. So the disease continues over time. It is degenerative. So that means that the neurons, the brain cells are continuing to die, and it is irreversible. So there are no cure for Alzheimer's disease. There are medications that can alleviate some of the symptoms in the beginning, right? In the beginning when someone is diagnosed in the early stages, but there's no medication that can help stop it, all right? There are other, no, I wouldn't say dementias. There are other causes that can lead to dementia symptoms. So for example, depression, alcohol abuse, even delirium, malnutrition, drug interactions, they all contain or have similar symptoms to dementia, but they're not dementia because those causes, once they are treated, those symptoms will go away and the person will get better, right? So it's really important that if you are concerned about someone, right, and what their symptoms are showing, or the symptoms that are showing, what you want to do is you want to ensure that there's no underlying causes for those symptoms, because it doesn't necessarily mean that that person has a dementia or a type of dementia, okay? So we want to think of dementia as this big, broad umbrella, and there are different types under this umbrella. So one of these types is Alzheimer's disease. And I think when we think of Alzheimer's disease, we think of memory loss, right? We think of repetitive questions, and maybe someone not really remembering what you said to them, remembering some instructions. And so what happens is a person will lose the ability to remember things that just happened. So that short-term memory loss will be impacted. However, long-term memories remain very much intact until later on, mid-stage to late stage. So it's important to, if you know someone with Alzheimer's disease, to really focus on that strength and really focus on that long-term memory that they still have, that they're still capable of. For frontal temporal dementia, that really impacts behaviors, emotions, even communication, and it actually impacts people in their 50s and 60s, we see, as opposed to Alzheimer's disease, where we see a lot of people being diagnosed 65 and up or 80 and up, right? Frontal temporal dementia, we see a little differently. So it actually can show in people who are much younger. Lewy body dementia has Parkinson-like symptoms. So people experience rigidity, tremors. They also experience fluctuations in cognition, hallucinations, visual hallucinations, audio hallucinations. And so with this one, caregivers may experience some challenges because people who are living with Lewy body dementia might be able to finish a task or complete something one day and then may not be able to do it the next day. Or they maybe very cognitive, an hour ago, and then an hour or two ago, they're not, right? So it presents itself differently. Someone with vascular dementia is someone who may have had one or multiple strokes. So really depending on where those strokes happen in the brain, that's where the symptoms are going to show. For vascular dementia, it is more of a step-like progression, whereas it will plateau and then decline and plateau and decline. And for CJD, which is Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, this type of dementia is very fast acting. So once a person is diagnosed with CJD, this person may only have 1 to 2 years until they unfortunately pass away. It's a very strong type of dementia. But again, just a handful of the different types that we see and that we work with. So memory can change as you age, but it does not mean that you have the disease, right? Memory that impacts day-to-day routine should be checked, right? Because if you are in need of extra support in your day-to-day activities, then that's something to definitely consider. But besides memory loss, there are other symptoms to look for. So other signs besides, memory loss is difficulty performing familiar tasks, right? Doing the dishes, taking the garbage out, writing a list, right? Again, these signs and symptoms really need to be impacting a person's day-to-day. Problems with language. So not being able to understand what another person is telling them, or they themselves are unable to communicate effectively or properly, right? So that person may experience a word salad. So saying so many different words in a sentence and it doesn't make any sense, right? This person may also revert back to their mother tongue. So if English is a second language, they may start speaking in the language that they were born with and that they practiced when they were a lot younger, more so. And they may not even recognize that they're reverting back to their mother tongue. Also, reading and writing can be affected as well in the long run. Disorientation of time and place. So not knowing where they are, time of day, season, even the year. Poor or decreased judgment. So this person is making, really bad judgment calls that can be in regards to not wearing the proper attire when they are going into, the elements. So if it's raining, they're not wearing a raincoat. If it's snowing, they're not wearing a coat and boots. They are, more easily, I guess, swayed when it comes to giving money to telemarketers. They may go to the store and instead of buying 1 bag of milk, they're buying, 3 to 4 bags of milk, and there's no sale, right? So that could be, a sign of poor, decreased judgment. Problems with abstract thinking can include a lot to do with numbers. So if this person is juggling the finances or, budgeting, paying bills, that can be very difficult. Misplacing things is also something that happens. So I don't know if anyone here ever misplaces something. That does not mean that you have Alzheimer's disease or related dementia. It does not mean that. And you know what happens when you misplace something, and think about it, you may misplace something that may make sense where you misplaced it. Because you were going into that room, let's say you're coming home from grocery shopping, right? Maybe you have your keys in your hand, but you have all the bags in your hand. And instead of putting your keys by the door, if that's where you put it in your jacket, or you put it in the kitchen, right? Or maybe you had to use the restroom right away. So you run to the restroom, you take your keys with you and you leave it in the washroom, right? So those places make sense. And when they make sense, that's okay. It's more about when we're misplacing things in places that don't make sense. So the milk in the cupboard, right? Things that don't belong in the fridge, right? And also not realizing that they're misplacing things and then maybe accusing others of stealing or being more suspicious of where people are touching their things, right? So your brain has a lot to do with your mood and behavior, right? So your brain regulates your mood and your behavior. And if your brain is impacted by dementia, then that person may not be able to do so. And so we all have changing moods depending on what is happening to us during the day, right? So sometimes, we don't start our day very well, but by the end of the day, maybe we kind of settled in, maybe we talked to a friend, maybe we got a free coffee somewhere. I'm so sorry, my dog's barking in the background. All right, but it changes, right? A person who is living with Alzheimer's disease or related dementia, they actually may be, their way that they are changing in those moods can be very fast. So they're going from like laughing to crying to sad to happy. So it can be very, very quick. Changes in personality, again, our brain regulates all of that. So it can easily come and go, and loss of initiative. So this person is losing initiative in things that they like to do, activities that they like to participate in. And that could be a lot to do with all of the other signs and symptoms that they're going through, right? So it's something to consider. So non-modifiable risk factors. So as we age, the risk does increase. It's not, because we age, but it does increase. But dementia is not a normal part of aging. All right. So just because we're getting older does not mean that you're going to get it. It just means that there is, it is a risk as we age, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a normal part. Biological sex. So 72% are women, right? So we know that this is true. So it is estimated that 70% of people with Alzheimer's disease are women. So while the reasons for this are still unclear, some of the potential contributors include, so one of them is women live longer than men, right? So as we age, if we're living longer, then there is a higher risk, right? Changes in estrogen levels over women's lifetime can also be a risk, and the presence of frailty and other health conditions, which tend to be higher among women because of how long we live, right? So while the risk for Alzheimer's disease is higher in the women, other types of dementia tend to have the same risk for both men and women, all right? And for genetics, Scientists have found over 20 genes that may increase the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. 3 of these genes directly cause Alzheimer's disease. So there's PS1, PS2, and APP. But familial Alzheimer's disease is actually very rare. And that's only accounting for 2 to 5% of all cases of disease. So just because someone in our family has had it doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to get it too, right? Because a lot of people may think that. If a person has an alteration of any of these 3 genes, they will almost certainly develop familial Alzheimer's disease, often well before the age of 65. So if a parent has any of the faulty genes, their children have 50% chance of inheriting the disease, right? But that's again, if there's an alteration. The other 17 genes associated with Alzheimer's disease are called risk factor genes, meaning that these genes increase the risk, but do not guarantee the person that will develop Alzheimer's disease. And the majority of people with Alzheimer's disease have the sporadic form and develop it later on in time, so 65 plus, so again, higher age. So what causes Alzheimer's disease? So unfortunately, we don't know the true cause of Alzheimer's disease, but we do know is that people with Alzheimer's disease have 2 hallmarks in the brain. The first hallmark is the formation of plaques, which are formed by protein plaques called amyloid beta. This protein clumps together, they're very sticky, and what they do is they block communication between neurons, between the brain cells. So when the neurons can no longer communicate with the surrounding neurons, they will actually begin to die. So I'll show you an image later of how that looks like, because it does cause shrinkage in the brain. The second hallmark that we see are tangles, which are caused by another protein called tau. So it's 2 proteins. So the tau collapses and twists, and it actually forms these like really tangled clumps in the fibers. So that also changes the structure of the neurons themselves. And so these tangles prevent nutrients from reaching the brain cell, which also result in cell death. So not only can the cells not communicate to each other, but they're losing nourishment as well. So here we have a healthy brain versus a brain atrophied by Alzheimer's disease. So we can see a lot of differences in these pictures. You know, the one on the left is the normal brain, the healthy brain. The one on the right, again, atrophied by Alzheimer's disease. And what we see here is size. So a normal healthy brain can weigh about 3 pounds. And a brain that has had Alzheimer's disease can actually shrink to 2 pounds, and sometimes even like 1.5 to 2 pounds, right? So that's a significant amount of mass of brain loss. And so it's important to recognize that because it is actually a physical change that is happening. And so it's really hard for us sometimes because, you know, we can't see the brain. Unfortunately, we don't know, where the brain is affected, where the Alzheimer's disease has impacted that person, what lobes in the brain are being affected, right? Because depending on what lobes are being affected, that's where we're going to see these symptoms, right? That's how we'll know what they're feeling and what they're going through, and also how we can support, right? So it's important to know that it is actually a physical change. So we can reduce our risk through lifestyle choices. All right, so these include challenging yourself, being socially active, eating well, being physically active, reducing stress, protecting your head, making healthy choices, and doing something fun like volunteering. So I'm just going to go over all of these with you, and this might not initiate, but maybe encourage you to kind of get back on track. It could validate some of the things that you're already doing, or inspire you to try something new. All right, so hopefully it does all of those after today. So we want to protect our head. All right, it's very important to protect our head. And a way we can do it is not just by wearing, you know, a helmet, because we can't wear a helmet everywhere we go, right? But it is important to know that protecting your head, you know, you don't want to have any more bumps on your head. You don't want to you know, wiggle that brain in there too much, because you want to keep it protected. So what you can do is you can prevent yourself from falling, right? Because that's how you're actually going to hit your head. You know, we're not all boxers or football players, and we may not do activities that really, you know, we're using our head too much physically, but what we need to prevent are falls. All right. And so how can we prevent your fall is, you know, seeing your doctor, right? Make a list of your prescription and over-the-counter medications and supplements, bring them to your doctor, see which ones are causing any side effects of drowsiness, of dizziness, right? Or if there are any drug interactions that increase the risk of falling, right? Have your eyes and your ears checked regularly so you can also prevent falls, right? Changes in your sight and hearing can increase the chance of falling, right? If you don't have balance, right? If you can't see what is in front of you, right? And always tell your doctor if you had a previous fall, this may indicate a new medical problem or anything maybe underlying that can be treated. Promote a safe environment. So this may mean installing grab bars, handle rails if needed, and decluttering your home. So you want to remove any tripping hazards, any loose rugs, any cords, you know. So I know, even though my house, I know I have a little rug in the kitchen, and it has a little lip at the end because it's old, so it curls. So you want to make sure that you have your rugs, you know, firmly on the floor, nothing where you can kind of trip and fall, right? Ensure that there is sufficient lighting in your home, and use assisted devices that your doctor recommends, like canes and walkers if needed. The next one is plan ahead and stay focused. So don't rush and get distracted, right? When we rush and get distracted, we're kind of trying to do so many things at once, and that could lead to a fall because, you know, we're moving around too fast because we're a little bit anxious, right? Another thing you can do is that when you wake up in the morning and you get out of bed, you don't stand up too quickly. You let yourself sit up, take your time, you know, and then get up. You want to make sure that your blood pressure dropped. And if you do this, if you stand up too quickly, it might make your blood pressure drop and it might make you unsteady. Okay. Wearing good shoes. So making sure you have the proper shoes in home and out home. Okay. You want to increase your mobility. So exercise can reduce risk of falls by improving your strength, balance, coordination, and flexibility. And we'll talk more about that after. We all know that exercise is good for our bodies, right? So research shows now that exercise is great for our brains too, right? That's because people who exercise regularly are less likely to develop heart disease, stroke, obesity, and diabetes, which are all risk factors associated with dementia. So physical activity also pumps blood to the brain, nourishes those cells with nutrients and oxygen, and may even encourage the development of new brain cells, right? So make sure that your exercises are effective exercises, that you can make them regular, right? That they're sustained and varied. So you don't have to do the same exercise every day, but making sure that you are staying as active as possible. And I know we used to have another stat here. I don't know where it went, but it was, 98% of us buy running shoes, but only a certain percentage actually run. So make sure that if you're choosing something, that you're having fun with it too. It's important to have fun when you're, exercising. It doesn't not necessarily mean that it's like an exercise, like a chore or a task. It's just something fun that you're doing, and it's just about moving your body. Stay socially active. So we know being socially active decreases the risk of depression and social isolation, which are risk factors for dementia. So with the pandemic, you know, many people were finding and still finding it hard, challenging to be socially active. But despite not being physically together, it's important that we find new ways to stay connected to maintain good mental health and well-being. You know, so there could be different ways that you're connecting with others, with your family and your friends. You could be using video calls to stay in contact, maybe talking with your neighbor, you know, outside, you know, in a distance, right? Going for walks, getting fresh air, and maybe spending quality time with people that are very close to you. Some other ways that you can still be active online is joining a book club or social groups on Zoom. Programs like yoga and exercise programs can be delivered, very much delivered now on Zoom. I see a lot of things popping up all the time. And you may still also be able to volunteer. So at AST, we actually have a teleconnect program where volunteers get matched with clients and talk to them over the phone, right? So yeah, just making sure that you're, you know, being open to trying other things, but also making sure that you're feeling comfortable and keeping yourself safe. So, you know, we want to make healthy food choices. So I don't want you to name 10 different fruits or vegetables. You can if you want to in the chat box, but I want you to think about, you know, maybe different types of purple or blue vegetables and fruits and see if you can kind of maybe think about some of those, right? Because what we want is we want lots of color in our diet, right? Right. So making healthy food choices is also key in reducing the risk of dementia. Right. So you may have heard of the saying, you know, eat a rainbow, which I'm sorry if you hear my daughter, she just woke up her nap. She'll be moving soon, sorry. Anyways, I don't know if you've heard eat the rainbow, because you want to make sure that you're eating all the very colorful fruits and vegetables. So, you know, we encourage us to eat a variety of foods. And so, you know, looking at this picture, you know, blueberries, blackberries, beets, right? Red cabbage, you know, all of these colorful fruits and vegetables, they show us physically in their color that they're packed with nutrients and minerals, right? So we want to make sure that we're adding that to our diet. All right. And so, you know, these are the blue fruits and purple fruits. We want to have, you know, really green fruits, orange and yellow, red, you know, again, all of those things. So here is the Canadian Brain Health Food Guide. And we see here, this is the Brain Health Food Guide that was developed by Baycrest, actually, in collaboration with members of the Canadian Consortium on Neurodegeneration and Aging. All right, so it's a food guide along with similar Mediterranean diets, and it emphasizes in eating more fruits and vegetables, legumes and beans, whole grains, nuts, olive oil, and fish, right? So these diets also all recommend limiting processed foods like red meat, sweets, high fat dairy, you know, some of the things that we also enjoy eating. And it's not saying that you can't eat it. It's just saying to recognize that maybe that should be something that you don't have all for every meal, every day, right? Remember a healthy heart diet. So if the heart is healthy, the brain is happy, right? So what is good for the brain, what's good for the heart is good for the brain, right? And you can also refer to the Brain Health Food Guide for more information. And I believe we have here another way you can look at Canada's food guide recommendations. And now they have a plate, right? Instead of that, like kind of, it was like a stack of little, I can't remember what it was, but I think if you saw it, you would know. But now they have a plate because they want to physically show you that half of your plate should have plenty of fruits and vegetables, and the other half is cut. Right? So it's split in two, and a quarter of that is a protein and a quarter of that is whole grain food. So if you're looking at your plate, that's how you kind of want to have your plate set up, right? A little bit more of a visual. Another way you can help yourself in terms of being mindful or in eating properly is to be mindful, right? So being mindful of your eating habits, right? Choose portion sizes that are appropriate for, how much you're supposed to eat, eating in moderation, making sure you have plenty of water to drink. I have my water here. You can't see it because it's blurry, but it's here. And you know what? Plan meals in advance that can help you keep on track with being mindful of developing healthy eating patterns so that you don't, stray too far away from, the diet of many colors, right? And you know what? Try different recipes. I've tried many recipes recently, things that I maybe weren't so, wouldn't have really tried before, but I know it's important. So, and you may be surprised, and it may be fun and something to do with someone that you care about. Another way to reduce the risk is to manage your stress. All right. And that can be easier said than done, but it's actually really important. And it's actually okay and normal to have occasional stress, right? Sometimes you have stress because you are, maybe getting ready for an occasion, right? Maybe you're hosting people coming over. That's a little bit stressful, right? Making sure you have enough food, making sure everyone's happy, right? That's normal stress. Stress in, if you're commuting to work. Stress and just like, oh, I have to make an appointment with the doctor. Oh, I gotta, I have to call, right? And so, things that happen every day sometimes can lead to a little bit of stress, but it's actually long-term stress that can really, really cause some harm to your brain, some harm to your body, right? So lowering our stress can reduce the risk of depression and high blood pressure, which are also known risks for dementia. And during the pandemic, of course, we know that many people were struggling and are still struggling to adjust to the new normal and maybe coping with tremendous loss, grief, and uncertainty. So it is normal to feel concerned about the future, but it's also really important to continue using strategies that you've relied on to support yourself and your family during this time, right? So what are some stress relieving strategies that you can try? Well, you can try to find balance, right? Stay tuned in, but know when to take a breather. This means, trying to limit your news intake maybe, right? Or listening or reading to news about, all of the things bad that are happening in the world. Maybe take a break. It's going to be there tomorrow anyways. So just take a break from it. Sometimes we need to unplug, right? And that also means unplugging from technology, right? Unplugging from our phones and, going out and breathing some fresh air. Remember that you are resilient, and be careful with the what ifs, right? Sometimes we get stuck in the what ifs. So think of difficult or challenging situations that you have encountered, but that you were able to manage through, right? So remind yourself that you've done okay, that you're doing great and will continue to do great. And try not to go down that what ifs road, right? And even if things weren't perfect, what did you do to cope with the situation? Looking back to see, who did you rely on or what did you do, right? Practice relaxation and meditation. So this may be an activity that you find relaxing, like coloring, or maybe something like yoga or mindfulness. And when I say coloring, I don't mean just like coloring a book, or maybe that's it. But coloring, they have those beautiful like color by numbers that you can buy. You can also, I do this actually a little bit more regularly now. I go to Dollarama and I buy canvases and like little paints, and I go on YouTube and I find like a paint night. And I do with myself or with my husband or with a friend. And I always think that's fun. So, making sure that you're doing things that will keep you focused. And remind yourself that you can handle stress, and that if you feel you need support, you can reach out to your friends, your family, your colleagues. And if you are finding that you're really struggling to cope, you may also want to seek support from professionals like your family doctor, a psychiatrist, or a social worker, because it's definitely important to identify when you do need the help. There's this box breathing that you can do. And it's really about just being in tune with your breathing. All right, so I'm just going to ask you to put your feet on the ground. All right, put both feet on the ground. All right, place your hands on your stomach. Okay, and take 2 deep breaths in. So when you're taking your breaths in, I want you to notice your stomach rising and falling with each breath in and out. All right. And when you're feeling very comfortable and settled in, I want you to breathe in and count to 4. Hold your breath for a count to 4, and then breathe out slowly for a count of 4. Okay. So breathe in to a count of 4. Hold your breath. And then breathe out. And this is something that you can do by yourself when you need to kind of, again, find a place to, kind of get back to yourself and to ground yourself if you are feeling very stressed, all right, and feeling a little anxious. And it really does help. It's definitely something that a lot of people are told to do. Okay. Sleep. So we know that good quality sleep is very important for our brains. And a study suggests that people who slept 6 hours or less per night in their 50s and 60s were more likely to develop dementia in later life. So good sleep is really a necessity, and it is not a luxury. All right, which is why it's so important that we practice good sleep habits and get a good quality sleep at night. So what are these sleep habits that you may, want to consider? Well, what you can do is if you notice that yourself is waking up early or too early or in the middle of the night, what you can do is a simple tip is you can turn your clock so you can't see it, because sometimes what happens that when we wake up in the middle of the night, we're looking at our clock, we're looking at our phone, and we're like, oh, 2 more hours before I wake up. And then you wake up again, you're like, oh, an hour and a half before I wake up. Oh, what you want to do is you want to step away from that. Turn it around. Don't look at your phone. Just keep sleeping until your alarm goes on or until all of your alarms go on. All right. What you want to do is you want to exercise during the day, but not right before bed, because it gets your heart pumping again. And you don't want to do it too close to your bedtime. You want to keep your room completely dark. You can use blackout, curtains to cover the windows. And you can make sure that any blinking lights on devices are turned off, because you may not think that they are bothering you, but they actually might be causing you to have a little bit of a restless sleep. If you can't really sleep, don't toss and turn in bed. Instead, you can get up, do something really boring or relaxing, and then go back to bed. Try to avoid watching TV because you want to decrease blue light exposure right before going to bed. And you can try mindfulness, meditation, breathing exercises as well. And if you do have a sleep disorder, it's really important to go see your doctor so that you can figure out how to manage that as well. And again, see your doctor. So you want to track your health numbers. You want to track your body weight. You want to track your blood pressure, right? You want to ensure that you're maintaining a healthy level of cholesterol, right? Because as high cholesterol is a high risk factor for heart disease, stroke, and vascular dementia. What else do you want to do? You want to, connect with your doctor if you are have symptoms of depression. So, feeling down and having a low mood over a period of time, feeling fatigued, having sleeping issues. And you want to see your doctor if you have hearing loss. So has your hearing loss increased, right? Hearing loss has also been linked to an increased risk for dementia, in addition to social isolation, loss of independence, and problems with everyday activities. So people who experience hearing loss often have reduced cognitive stimulation. So it's so important to get your hearing assessed, right? Smoking also puts you at a higher risk for developing dementia and increases your cardiovascular risk. So it does a lot of harm to the circulation of blood around the body, including the blood vessels in the brain, right? As well as in the heart and in the lungs, right? So stop even in later life. Stopping can reduce your risk. In one study among 50,000 men aged older than 60 years, stopping smoking for more than 4 years compared, sorry, I didn't read that right. In one study among 40, so they stopped smoking and they actually reduced their risk of dementia for 8 years. All right, so it's a big number. So really, if you're still a smoker, it's really important to stop smoking. I'll be honest, I was also a smoker when I was younger, and I stopped because I knew it was a bad habit, you know? Not only is it a bad habit to your body, it's a really bad habit to your wallet. All right, so if you don't want to think about your health, think about your wallet. And drinking excessively is also a risk as well, right? Increases for developing dementia. And you want to challenge your brain. You want to pursue lifelong learning. It's about engaging your brain with challenging games, and you want to break your routine. So, I went too far. Oh no, I went too far. Yes. So you want to increase, that challenging your brain aspect. Do things that are a little different, a little bit more, fun, right? So we're going to do this right now. We'll see how this works. I know the polls, right? So let's see. We're going to try to solve some puzzles together. Okay, this is the first riddle. I have a head and a tail that will never meet. Having too many of me is always a treat. What am I? Am I stories, a dog, a cat, or a coin? And if you want to answer, that's great. All right, I think we're good. We're good. All right. So the actual answer is a coin. So again, I have a head, a tail that will never meet. Having too many of me is always a treat. It is a coin. All right, perfect. And I'm just gonna close that. All right. I know someone said a dog, and I agree with you too, because I think having lots of dogs is nice. All right, the next one is a seed with 3 letters in my name. Take away 2 and I still sound the same. What am I? A seed with 3 letters is my name. Take away 2 and I still sound the same. So the options are yam, seed, pea, or fig. I think everyone's might get this one.
Okay, stop. So.
Yeah. All right. So what am I? The answer is a pea. That's what the answer is. All right. All right. A man stands on one side of the river, his dog on the other. The man calls his dog, who immediately crosses the river without getting wet and without using a bridge or a boat. How did the dog do it? Is this one on it? Did I include this one? Yes. Okay. Oh. I don't think this is the right answer.
No.
No, this is not the right one. I may have sent you the wrong answer for this one.
Oh.
That's okay. We're going to take that one off. So the answer was a river was frozen. We'll forget about that one. We'll forget about that one. That's okay. We'll go to the next one. Oh, I hope they're the right answers then for these ones.
I don't have that one.
You don't have that one? That's okay. That's okay. All right. How about this one?
I do.
You do? Okay. You're escaping a maze and there are 3 doors in front of you. The door to the left leads to a pit of lava. The door in the center room leads to a room filled with deadly gas. And the door on the right leads to a lion that hasn't eaten in 3 months. Which door do you choose? Do you choose the left, the right, the middle, or no doors?
No doors.
No doors. Everyone chose no doors. You know what? That's a good one. I wouldn't choose any doors. So the answer, the door to the right, because a lion who hasn't eaten in 3 months will actually be dead. That's actually the door to choose. But yeah, I would have chose no doors too. What is 3/7 chicken, 2/3 cat, and half a goat? Is it called a Kentucky? Is it mammals? Is it a farm? Or is it Chicago? Oh. All right. All right, so the answer is Chicago. Good one. That was a good one. I like that one. All right, thank you so much. So again, thank you so much for putting them up. There is no magic activity. It's just daily life. So you want to involve yourself in activities that you're not already an expert at. You want to make sure that they're challenging for you and that you enjoy them as well. So just reflect on what you learned today and what you may start doing and what you can do to keep your brain healthy and encouraging others to do the same. All right. So thank you so much. So I'll just go really quickly over the services that we have. So we provide counseling, support groups, care navigation, education and training information. The counseling and support groups we offer for caregivers. We also offer them for people who are living with a related type of dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and so on. And we have active living programs that are online and that are great to use and to be a part of. We do have something called the Music Project, which is really focusing on the benefits of personalized music. We do know that it increases cognition, emotional memory, mood, and it decreases isolation. All right, so if you have any questions about the Music Project, you can let us know. You can give us a call, or you can visit the www.musicproject.ca to learn more. And it's really about people getting a personalized music device. And we go over, very person-centered way. We go over what they like to hear. And again, it increases that emotional memory and, brings them back to a place where, they had really good times. Another program that we have is across the province. It's called Finding Your Way. It raises awareness of the risk of people going missing, helps prevent people or missing incidents from happening, and supports a safe return. We do know that if you are diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease or related dementia, you will go missing. There's I think it's like 6 out of 10 people will go missing. And if you're not found within 24 hours, I believe half of those people, unfortunately, end up passing away because they are not found or found too late. And what happens is that people become very stressed and fearful, and they actually don't seek help. So we want to prevent people from going missing. So this program has all of these toolkit tools in it that you can print, and they're all in different languages for people who are still living at home in the community. And lastly, here is just our little QR code. If you want to do an evaluation, you just put your phone up to it, and then it will take you to a page. You can do an evaluation for us, but that's it. That's all for me.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for amazing informative sessions. And Keiko-san, can you stop the recording?